Endings within the SMT series tends to widely vary, particularly within the main proviso being maintaining the law/chaos distinction, this including Digital Devil Saga and the other linear stories. The difference in Nocturne, and in my opinion the primary reason for its success, comes in its lack of a law/chaos alignment and instead opting for a less linear mode of story progression. I feel there's some misinterpretation from parts of the player base when they attempt to apply this dynamic into Nocturne where it doesn't apply. Namely, at least them to misinterpret the true demon ending as a simple chaos ending and the freedom ending as just a general neutral ending. This is looking at Nocturne from the perspective of an SMT4, rather than what it actually is, which can easily be demonstrated in the structure of the game. To start with, an immediate factor less noted from this perspective that might ironically show the thematic differences between Nocturne and 4 is its introduction. In Nocturne, the creation of the Demi-Fiend comes as something foisted upon him by Lucifer. It acts as a rite of passage where one is turned from one's profane world and molded into a transhuman, dropped into the chaos of a sacred world whose history is being recreated. He is given the power to survive the world of the conception on his own, but is still alive to humanity and will to take him forward. Hence why he is able to choose endings other than demon endings at all, and why Lucifer respects his choice in the freedom ending regardless. Compare this to SMT4's literal rite of passage, where Flynn's initiation is preordained by his own fate. As it is revealed, Flynn is the reincarnation of the man that saved Tokyo from nuclear destruction using Masakado, and is fated to repeat this process to secure a future for mankind. This way, he has no freedom, and there's only one true ending, which is the neutral ending. Chaos and law are little more than a black and white horseshoe and indefensible positions. Unlike the Demi-Fiend, Flynn has no free will this way, and his induction is essentially mandatory. Even stepping out into chaos or law is more or less enslaving himself and humanity to Merkaba or Lucifer. The white ending is even derided by Burroughs as rightly irrational. He was created in the image of the goddess of Tokyo to locate Flynn and enlist him to the revival of Tokyo. The conception commenced in Nocturne is an act of rebirthing the world, in the same line that Demi-Fiend is undergoing an essential act of rebirth into a man-god, integrated with the sacred world hitherto ignored. The Labyrinth of Amala becomes an option to further this initiation through one's own will. The trials across the initiation process that Nocturne presents with are fraught with an ever-increasing difficulty that works hand in hand with the story. The difficulty of the game becomes an integral part of its narrative, as it trains the player just as it is training the Demi-Fiend to strengthen himself and through Amala become a powerful demon. This is also why the new easy mode added to the remaster goes against the point. By playing on easy, you're essentially experiencing only half the story. Through this difficulty, Demi-Fiend forges a Herculean level of strength and an insatiable will to power that is only actualized by pursuing the true demon ending. Lucifer provides the means for him. It is the task of the Demi-Fiend to pick it up should he accept the invitation. He does not become Lucifer's slave like some seem to believe, something put forth by those who take the freedom ending most literally, as in all other endings are a type of enslavement by association. Most of all, there is no law and chaos system in Nocturne, so you can't describe them by those terms either. For example, Chiaki's ideology is what is in the other games the ideals of chaos, yet it is a reason put forth by Kagetsuchi as the next world, making it an accepted doctrine to put into practice by what would be the law faction. If there would be a definite law alignment in Nocturne, it would be the truest example of it. The actual quote-unquote law imposed in the world matters little outside of the fact that it is able to validate Yahweh's rule, and this goes for the quote-unquote law faction in all SMT games as well, though often portrayed more on the alignment system the full one into associating it principally with the law ideology. Freedom ending puts creation in the hands of the Demi-Fiend, who simply resettles it into the status quo. This status quo is still under the terror of history, one of creation and destruction with a universe divided into ages, each ending in destruction and renewing it into the next creation. In Nocturne, we have reached what is essentially the end of history, characterized by a return to primordial chaos and destruction, before it is redeemed by a messiah figure and created anew. The conception practically entails just this, yet its name identifies it as an act of creation, a sowing of the seed. The destruction and suffering caused by it can be vindicated according to its epoch, as the end of history, and according to the redemption under a messiah. Previously, the universe of Yahweh was built on the rules of destruction and creation in his new image each time. True demon ending, however, destroys the cycle of eternal return entirely, thereby granting an authentic freedom from history, and a more conclusive option to the struggle against Yahweh. By instead crafting himself into the most powerful being and denying the recreation of a world predicated on the rules of Yahweh, we are then forwarded to the last war between the angels and all those gods who have been designated by them as demons. The only way to be free of an eternal return is through such a war. In this route, if there is to be a history, it will no longer be based on the Anno Domini, the beginning of Christianity, but the death of it. History will begin anew with the death of God, a transvaluation of all values. The purpose of an initiation rite is a rebirth into the sacred world, and in this instance, it rebirths the demi-fiend into, both metaphorically and literally, the Antichrist, a messiah figure in his own right.